Chapter 23. Archer and Willow arrived at Ray and Robin's house, exchanging greetings once they opened the door. Donald, Kenzie, and Teresa were already there, sitting together on one of the couches, with Eugene, Thomas, and Anthony on another. Ray and Robin had to bring a few chairs in from the kitchen to fit everyone. "Thanks for inviting us over," Archer said. "I've never done a group ritual before. This'll be cool."
"I'm glad you could come," Robin replied. "This'll be the most people I've actually led a ritual for. The only times I've done bigger rituals than this have been when I've made it to the Hoff for big AFA events."
Willow asked,
"What's a Hoff?"
Robin replied,
"Our temples."
Archer asked, "Are we doing the ritual in here?"
"No, we've got an altar set up in the backyard," Robin answered, "but we can relax and chat for a little bit before we get started."
"Actually," Donald said, we have a few things we should talk about first." He looked back and forth at the girls sitting on either side of him, both of whom looked a bit sheepish and nervous about how this conversation would go.
"Oh," Robin said. "Sure, what's up?"
Well, Donald was clearly having trouble figuring out how to say what he needed to say. Archer hadn't seen him this nervous very often, which made him wonder just what could possibly be going on. "So, the first thing is, I don't know how you all are going to take this, but, the three of us are dating." There was a bit of a pause. Eugene and Anthony looked a little bit impressed, Robin and Willow looked shocked, Ray cocked his head with a curious look, and Archer laughed a bit, impressed that Donald had somehow managed to pull off convincing both of them to date him, but not entirely approving of the nature of such a relationship. Kenzie and Teresa looked a little embarrassed. Finally, Robin asked,
"All three of you?"
The three of them nodded. Donald confirmed. "Yeah, the three of us. They both wanted me to date both of them, and, well, there's a lot more to it than that."
"How the hell did you nail two girls at the same time?" Eugene asked, sounding more impressed than bothered.
Donald gave a nervous smile, and Kenzie's face turned red, but Teresa replied, "He's a very impressive man," putting her hand on his knee.
"Damn, dude, you got a 10-inch dick or something?" Eugene asked with a laugh.
14.88 inches, if you must know," Donald replied, and most of the room laughed. "No, I'm honestly kind of worried about telling people why they both decided to date me, especially considering the other thing I found out after they told me they wanted to date me."
I don't know how to say this," Robin began. "I mean, you've always seemed like a great guy and all. I don't think you're the kind of guy who'd pressure them or abuse them or anything, but..."
As she trailed off, Kenzie interrupted her.
"He didn't pressure us at all. He actually felt a little bit bad about it, despite saving our lives. We both definitely want this."
She put her hand on Donald's other knee, and she and Teresa looked past Donald at each other in solidarity. Robin looked at Ray for support before replying,
"Okay, but, the AFA kind of frowns on polygamy, and, to be honest, so do I."
Donald nodded. "I get it, and if I have to leave the group, so be it. I can't really pass up an opportunity like this, especially since I'm hoping to start a family before I get too old. I know it's kind of weird, and I don't expect you all to support this decision, but I hope I can still be friends with all of you." "Hold on," Anthony said. "Did you say Donald saved your lives?"
"Yes,"
Kenzie replied. "Seriously?" Anthony asked. Archer added, "Okay, there's got to be a story to this. What happened?" Donald hesitated before replying. "I kind of want to plead the fifth on that part, especially with cell phones around." Ray replied, "Damn, this must be something serious." Robin took her phone out of her pocket and set it on the table.
"Fine, let's leave our phones in here and go out back. I need to know what you've done before I decide whether or not to include you in our ritual. I need to be careful who I mix my spiritual energy with. I'm sure you understand."
"I do, yeah." Donald set his phone on the table and watched as everyone else pulled their phones out and set them down. Archer had no problem complying and was only getting more curious. Once everyone's phones were sitting on the coffee table, they all got up and followed Ray and Robin through the house to the back door and out onto their patio. The patio was covered and had only a few chairs, but the altar was sitting in the middle of the yard a little ways back from the patio. Robin gave Donald a stern look.
"All right, this better be good."
Depends on how you define good, Donald replied. So, you know that park where the secret Hitler stickers got put up last weekend? And how they found 4 black gang members with criminal records floating in the river a couple days later? Well, I invited them to hang out and go for a walk in the park, and they suggested that park, and, well, we were just walking through the park minding our own business when that gang surrounded us and tried to rob us and kidnap the girls.
Holy shit!
Robin's eyes had gone wide as she stared in shock at Donald. Eugene got excited. You seriously killed 4 niggers? Kenzie and Teresa looked a little shocked by his language for a moment, but Archer could see that what happened to them was overriding their aversion to his use of a mean word. Yeah, Donald confirmed. Anthony sounded impressed. Damn, dude, way to go. I don't think I could take on 4 guys at the same time. Archer was impressed as well. Me either. 1 maybe, but all 4? Well, Teresa helped, Donald replied. The main reason I won was the dumbass was holding the gun like a nigger, and I managed to knock him and another guy down and get the gun. Teresa was winning against another of them, and the other one grabbed Kenzie and tried to drag her away. Kenzie exclaimed,
I was fucking terrified!
I was pretty scared too, Teresa added. I don't know if I actually would have won if you hadn't jumped in and helped. Thomas asked, How'd you do it? Donald took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Honestly, I don't remember exactly. It happened really fast. I remember running kinda staggered at the dude so he'd have trouble hitting me, and then jump kicking him. The other guy came at me and we wrestled around for a minute before I threw him off me and grabbed the gun. Popped them both. That's when I saw that my shield maiden here was knocking another guy around, but the last dude had a knife to Kenzie's throat. I prayed to Thor to guide my aim and got that guy, then made the last guy toss their bodies in the river before shooting him into it. Good thinking throwing them in the water, Eugene said. Even if they lived through getting shot, niggers can't swim. Archer said, There was a Sinfest comic just a few weeks ago that was just like this. That's so weird. Kenzie asked,
Sinfest?
Archer replied, Yeah, it's a comic by some Jap who started off making fun of religion, tried to appeal to the feminist left for a while, and then sometime during Trump's first term he flipped and became far right. Though I guess his commentary on how modern society hurts women is the same. I'm glad Robin and I weren't in your position, Ray said. We hear a lot about black crime, but since we try to stay away from the bad neighborhoods, thankfully we haven't been on the receiving end of anything like that yet. Robin nodded but frowned.
Considering the circumstances, I guess I can understand why the 2 of them would both want to be with the guy who saved them both from whatever that gang would have done. I don't even want to think about that part.
There was a look of pain in her eyes.
I'm glad you're all okay.
She stepped towards them and threw her arms around Donald, hugging him.
I'm really glad you're okay.
She then took turns hugging Kenzie and Teresa.
Okay, I can forgive you for this. I still don't approve of that kind of relationship, but, well, you've earned it.
Thanks, Donald replied. Kenzie said,
There's a little more to it than that, though.
Robin asked,
What do you mean?
Donald, Kenzie, and Teresa looked at each other for a moment before Kenzie continued.
This part might be harder for you to forgive, but it's important that you all know what's going on. These last few weeks have been really life-changing for us, and not just because we were attacked or because we started dating Donald. You've done a lot to open my eyes and make me realize that I didn't know as much about the way the world worked and what's going on as I thought I did. Especially you 2.
She looked at Archer and Willow.
Thank you, really. Thank you so much for everything you showed me.
It felt good to know that he had changed their minds, and he knew why what he had shown them seemed so mind-blowing, but he still wasn't quite sure what they were getting at. The look on Anthony's face said that he had a better idea of what Kenzie was getting at, but Archer smiled at her with a curious look on his face. You're welcome, and I'm glad it helped open your eyes. Was it really that mind-blowing for you? I thought you already knew some stuff about the Jews before we watched that movie together.
That's what we told you, Kenzie replied, but actually, I didn't believe any of that stuff about the Jews until after I started hanging out with your group. In fact, that first day when the rest of us got together at the park before meeting you, I actually thought you all were the bad guys. I was wrong, and I'm sorry, but you need to know something. Teresa and I aren't the only people who joined groups like yours. There were almost a dozen of us. We all joined far-right groups to try to find out more about Secret Hitler.
Ray, Robin, and Thomas all had looks of shock on their faces. Eugene and Anthony gave each other a look that made Archer think they'd started to suspect something was up, and now their suspicions had been confirmed. Archer was more surprised that they'd changed sides and admitted to what they'd done than that they'd tried to infiltrate far right-wing groups, though the Asatru Folk Assembly didn't seem like the kind of group that would be high on anyone's list to infiltrate. Then again, maybe the Jews really were afraid of a folkish pagan revival challenging their religious control schemes. He realized Willow was staring at him and turned to see the concerned look in her eyes. He realized she was looking to him to give her some direction in how to react to what they'd just been told, but he wasn't sure he knew how they should react yet. Anthony spoke first. "So the new guys in Patriot Front, Joseph, Charles, and Ronald, they're all part of your group?"
"Yes,"
Kenzie replied. Anthony continued. "And the new guys in Proud Boys, I can't remember all their names, but they're part of your group too?"
"Yeah," Kenzie replied. "I think their names are Gary, Paul, and DeAndre. Then there's Barbara and Carol, who started going to some racist church."
"Who organized your group?" Anthony asked. "Who's planning and coordinating all this?"
Teresa replied, "That would be Ezra Jacobs. He said he used to be in Proud Boys, but now he's trying to stop the far right."
"I've heard of him," Anthony said. "Some of the guys who've been in Proud Boys for a while have told me stories about what a scumbag he is. A few years ago he cheated on his wife with some teenage girl. One of the guys almost beat his ass for hitting a woman. He probably didn't tell you about that part." Kenzie and Teresa both looked shocked and somewhat horrified. Archer was concerned that there was more going on than just a jaded ex-Proud Boy trying to get revenge. "You said he wanted you to look into Secret Hitler? I don't think any of us know any more about who's spreading their propaganda or committing the murders than you do, but it is weird that he sent people to infiltrate so many different groups to look into it. How did he recruit everyone for this?"
"Facebook," Kenzie replied. "He messaged me on there one day asking if I'd like to help expose the people behind Secret Hitler and talked me into working with him. I asked Teresa to come along to keep me safe. It felt like my spirit guides were telling me to do it. Otherwise, I probably would have been too scared to. I don't know how he found everyone else, but I knew some of the people there already, and it sounds like most of them were part of Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the Bernie campaign, or some other left-wing activism before he signed them up."
"We'd better let all the other groups know," Eugene said. "I can't wait to kick Charles' ass for lying to us." "Hold on," Anthony said. "We convinced these two, somehow. I guess getting attacked by a gang of black guys will make anyone a little bit racist, but—" Kenzie interrupted.
"It wasn't just that,"
Teresa added.
"Yeah, we were already starting to, question things, I guess, especially after the movie night, and all the conspiracy talk and all that."
Kenzie continued.
"Yeah, it turns out you guys know a lot more than we realized about what's going on. Like, the Jews really used kids to...
Her face twisted up in disgust. Donald put his hand on her shoulder. "Yeah, it's really bad what they've done. Honestly, I'm impressed that you two were able to handle knowing about it once we explained it all to you." Anthony said, "Well, if we were able to win you over, maybe we can win some of the others over too." Archer liked where he was going. "That's a good idea. If they're trying to spy on us, maybe we can turn the tables and spy on Ezra. Find out if he's doing this as part of something bigger." Kenzie and Teresa looked at each other. Kenzie blurted out,
"I didn't even think about that. Gosh, what have I gotten us into?"
Anthony replied, "We don't know for sure yet. But for Ezra to go to all the trouble of recruiting people to infiltrate at least 4 different groups, and Joseph went to the Nova meeting, so 5 really, that's a lot of effort. He could be working with the feds or some intelligence agency, but if that was it, why would he need to recruit a bunch of random people instead of using trained agents?" Kenzie said,
"Oh, that reminds me. Carol got together with that Nova group too."
She pulled her phone out and started looking something up as she spoke.
"She said they went to put up stickers and ended up in Slithering Gulch Park. That's part of why we picked that park, but there's more to it than that."
She showed everyone the picture of Daniel in the hoodie.
"This guy was putting up Secret Hitler stickers. So they did find out something about Secret Hitler, and—"
Anthony interrupted her. "That looks just like one of the guys in Proud Boys, Daniel."
"It is!" Kenzie exclaimed. "At least, that's what Gary said."
Archer was astonished. One of the Proud Boys was in Secret Hitler too? What do you know about this Daniel guy? Is he legit or a Fed? Anthony replied, he's never said anything about being in Secret Hitler to me, and none of the other guys in their group have mentioned anything about it. He's kind of fat, though, and more interested in being edgy than figuring out what the kikes are up to or actually doing anything about it. Honestly, it kinda seemed like he was just in Proud Boys to have people to do drugs and tell racist jokes with, so I'm kinda surprised he was putting up Secret Hitler stickers. Donald added, if he's the guy I'm thinking of, I thought he was kind of a spaz that time I met him, too. Doesn't really seem like the kind of guy who'd be part of a top-secret Nazi propaganda group, unless there's a whole lot more to him than he likes to let on. Archer replied, sounds like there must be, in which case he's putting on an act to infiltrate Proud Boys. Which means Secret Hitler is probably some kind of psyop, and Daniel is an agent playing multiple roles in the operation. Yeah, wow, Anthony said. I've known that guy for a while, so it's kind of a shock to think he's capable of being part of something like that. Honestly, that's a bigger shock than finding out the two of you were trying to infiltrate us. To be honest, we were already starting to suspect there was something up when you two came to an AFA event the same weekend we got new people at Active Club and Proud Boys and at that church. Kenzie and Teresa looked a bit embarrassed. Teresa said, we didn't even think about how suspicious that would seem. Kenzie added,
we didn't realize that your groups were all working together closely enough to notice.
Anthony replied, if it wasn't for me, they probably wouldn't have noticed. But you're not the only ones we noticed. I don't know if you've met Will, Dick, and Sandra, but a couple months ago, William started going to Active Club and asking about how to join Patriot Front. Richard joined Proud Boys the same weekend, and Sandra started going to the church the same weekend too. Do you know any of them? Teresa and Kenzie shook their heads. Kenzie replied,
we heard a little bit about them the last time our group got together for a meeting, but nobody said anything about the three of them being part of anything else. Well, not together anyway. I think Will might have gone with Joseph to that Nova group, and Richard went with Paul to some racist libertarian group. I don't know if they have a name or not.
Anthony nodded. Yeah, I remember Will showing up to that, and I know some of the people in that libertarian group. So they're trying to get to know more people in the far right, just like your group was. Thomas commented, seems like you're trying to get to know everyone too. Eugene added, our very own Fed. Ray laughed. At least you're on our side, right? Anthony laughed too. Hey, someone's got to do it. If I don't keep tabs on all the local far-right groups, the only people keeping track of all of you will be our enemies. Kenzie looked ashamed when he said that, and Archer tried to lessen her shame by saying, we got some new allies out of it. If we play our cards right, maybe we can get a few more. Can you two tell us more about some of the people in your group? Maybe we can help open some of their eyes. Willow put her hand on his arm.
Are you sure we should be getting more involved? It seems kind of dangerous.
Archer nodded. Their spirit guides led them here, and maybe ours have been preparing us to do what we need to do about this too. We've learned a lot about what's going on, and it's about time we put that knowledge to use. Willow sighed.
Maybe you're right, but it still seems dangerous to get involved.
Robin had been listening quietly for a while, her initial judgmental expression having long since faded and been replaced by looks of astonishment, doubt, and worry.
I don't know if I'm ready to be a part of something like this.
Ray took her hand. Robin, I know you pretty well, and we both know that if the gods are calling you to help your folk through a crisis, you'll feel a whole lot worse if you don't help than if we suffer because we did the right thing. Robin pursed her lips and seemed to think hard for a moment before letting out a sigh.
You're right. This just seems so much bigger than us. But if the gods led you all here to figure out how to help the people who are trying to save our people, then, well, I guess, even if I have no idea what the hell is going on or why you two were sent to infiltrate us or any of that, I shouldn't run from this challenge. I just don't know what we're even supposed to do about it.
Archer replied, Neither do the rest of us, but we'll figure it out. Thomas nodded. I don't know how much help I'll be, but you have my sword. Eugene added, and my axe. Donald laughed. And my bow, you fucking larpers. Kenzie grinned.
Okay, well, if you've all decided to be part of this fellowship of, overthrowing the rings, I guess.
Archer laughed. Yes! Throw the rings down the well so our country can be free. He appreciated that Kenzie got what he'd shown her.
Robin was finally smiling. All right, if this is the quest the gods have given us, then I'm in too. But, maybe we should do the ritual before we figure out what to do about this? Sorting out this mess could take all night, and it's almost sunset already.
Donald asked, You don't mind us taking part in it?
Robin sighed. Well, if you're going to fight the Jew world order to save our people, in whatever way we're going to end up doing that, you might as well do it with the gods' blessing.
Teresa exclaimed,
Heck yeah, let's do this!
Robin smiled. At least you're enthusiastic. Ray, would you take the men inside while we prepare for the ritual? We'll call you out when we're ready.
Sure thing, Ray replied, motioning for the men to follow him. Archer followed the rest of the men in and closed the door behind them. Ray took out a ceremonial knife and held it in his hands. Menfolk, the incident that Donald went through is a good reminder of our role as the protectors of women. It is our job to put ourselves at risk to protect our people. We must be strong and brave to embody the warrior spirit of Thor, Tyr, and Odin. Donald, you did an amazing thing, and we're all proud of you. I'm sure the rest of us would have done our best to protect the women of our folk had we been in the same situation, and we can only hope to do as well as he did if it ever happens to us. I'd like each of you to place your hand over your heart and think about the people you'd like to protect, the men you'd fight alongside, and the women and children who rely on you to be stronger than they can be. As you focus on those thoughts, I want you to focus that energy through your heart and into your hand, and place it into this knife. Archer sometimes did meditative energy work, so he felt like he could feel his life energy moving through his body when he focused on it. He tried to focus his energy into his heart, then into his hand, and finally into the knife as Ray held it out for him in turn. He was pretty sure Donald had done some of that kind of energy work too, but he didn't know if Ray, Eugene, Thomas, or Anthony had. He had seen how the growth of his spirituality had affected the flow of events in his life, and he wondered how pouring his spiritual energy into the same ritual as the rest of them would affect them. He hoped great things would come of it, and that the things they accomplished would in fact help save their people from the many dangers facing them. When each of them had placed their hand on the knife in turn, Ray said, When we go outside, you're going to make a circle around the women, facing outward. When Robin tells you to, you will turn back towards her. At some point, one of the women will pass around a drinking horn. You can either take a sip of mead or hold it to your forehead for a moment before giving it back. And if she shouts something like, Hail the gods! Just shout it back. Ray put the knife back in its sheath. Shortly after that, they could hear the girls outside making ooh, ooh noises in sing-song voices. That's our cue. Ray opened the door and led the men out, walking in a circle around the women. They spaced themselves out evenly, facing outward from the 4 women who faced inward towards the small altar. Archer got a chance to look at the altar as they were moving into position. There was a lit candle, a drinking horn, an empty bowl, and a bottle of mead sitting on it, along with what looked like a few small statues of the gods in a circle around the candle. As they stood facing outward, Robin began to speak.
Folk, we are gathered here today to honor Tyr and Zisa. Tyr, god of discipline and duty, you were willing to sacrifice your hand to save your people. You are the god of honor, valor, and victory. Menfolk, as you stand facing outward against the world, remember that like Tyr, you have a duty to protect your folk, even if it comes at the cost of personal sacrifice. We honor you, Tyr, for your sacrifice, and ask that you continue to grant us victory against the many foes that stand against our people. Hail, Tyr!
Archer shouted, Hail, Tyr! Along with the rest of the group. He wondered if Robin had chosen to honor him specifically because of what happened to Donald, or if she had been planning to honor him before hearing about it, but he was definitely an appropriate god to honor under the circumstances. Robin continued,
Menfolk, turn and face your women. After the battle is won, you need a warm and loving home to return to. Womenfolk, just as our men have a duty to defend us, we too have a duty to care for the home, even while they're away, to keep the hearth fire burning. We have a duty to cherish and care for our men, to give them a warm and inviting home to return to tend their wounds and help them recover from the trials they face, to guide them with our insight and perception. Zisa, wife of Tyr, Goddess of freedom and patriotism, you untie the knots in the web of word so that we may make our own fates. Your symbol is the pine cone, representing the pineal gland in our minds that allows us to assert our spiritual will in the world. We honor you, Zisa, for liberating us from the web of lies that surround us, so that we may serve our own people and escape from the slavery our enemies wish to impose on the world. Hail Zisa!
Archer shouted, "Hail Zisa!" even louder than he'd shouted the previous time. He had never heard of Zisa before, but made a mental note to look into her. If what Robin said about her symbol being the pine cone was true, and she was associated with untying the web of fate so people could make their own fate, he would have to honor her more as he worked to empower his own pineal gland so he could make his own fate and improve the world around him. He wondered if telling Robin about the pineal symbolism in Back to the Future had made her choose to honor Zisa, thus making it natural for her to also honor Tyr, only for the ritual she chose to serendipitously turn out to be the perfect choice. Later, he would wonder if the reason she was one of the less famous goddesses of the Germano-Nordic pantheon was because her stories had been suppressed to keep people from following her path and developing their own spiritual power.
Menfolk, join your womenfolk in a circle around the altar,
Robin instructed, and Kenzie and Teresa took a couple steps back as the men took a couple steps forward to make a new circle together. Ray stepped up to the altar and placed the knife reverently on it, while Willow picked up the drinking horn and held it as Robin opened the bottle of mead and poured half of it into the horn.
Folk, today I ask you to give the best of your hearts.
Robin placed her hand on her heart.
Your minds.
She raised her hand and placed 2 fingers on her forehead.
And your bodies.
She lowered her hand and placed it over her abdomen.
Gather your strength, your wisdom, and your love, and give them to the gods in exchange for their blessing.
Robin placed her hand over the top of the horn for a moment.
As Willow brings the horn around, pour the best of yourselves into it, that you may give the best of yourself to the gods.
Archer followed her lead, placing his hand over his heart, then to his forehead, then to his abdomen. It reminded him of multiple meditation practices he'd studied and tried that aimed to store masculine energy in the lower physical chakras, feminine energy in the upper mental chakras, and mix them in the central heart chakra so the practitioner could change himself and the world. He wondered how much of this ritual was based on actual ancient pagan teachings and practices, and how much was a modern reconstruction based on broader esoteric spiritual wisdom, and how much was Robin making things up as she went along. If she had come up with this on her own, he was impressed. As Willow brought the horn around, he tried to push his spiritual energy into it through his hand. When Willow had completed the circle, Robin took the horn from her and let her pour her energy into it. Robin then spoke again.
Tyr, we ask you to grant us the strength to defend our people. Zisa, we ask you to nurture our spiritual growth so that we may unbind our folk. As you drink from this horn, know that the gods grant you their power.
Robin handed the horn back to Willow, who went around the circle, offering it to each of them in turn, saying,
I offer you the power of the gods,
each time she handed the horn to one of them. When Archer took a sip, he felt a little tingle of energy go down his spine along with it. Almost everyone in the group drank, but Thomas and Kenzie both pressed it to their foreheads instead. When she was done going around the circle, Willow gave the horn to Robin, who then offered it back to her, repeating the same phrase before Willow took a sip. Finally, Willow gave it back to Robin, saying the same phrase before Robin took a sip. Robin poured the remaining mead into the bowl.
Tyr, Zisa, we praise you and offer you this mead as our gift in exchange for the blessings you offer us through this mead. Hail the gods!
Hail the gods! Robin continued.
Hail the folk!
Hail the folk!
Hail the ancestors!
Hail the ancestors!
Thank you, everyone. This was wonderful.
Robin looked invigorated as she turned to Willow and put a hand on her shoulder.
You did great. Thanks for helping.
Willow replied,
It was my pleasure.
Kenzie added,
Thanks for letting us do this with you. That was a very interesting ritual.
Thomas added, Yeah, this was a lot more interesting than sitting in church getting preached at. Robin smiled.
I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Now, if anyone wants to help us finish the last half of that bottle of mead, it sounds like we still have a lot to talk about.